Hey, everybody watching. Alan Feirer is here with Dr. Lucas Petersen. In case you stumbled across this accidentally, this is what part is this, Lucas?
This is part three.
Yeah, this is part three in a follow-up series that's for a very specific audience. But if you're interested in using student leaders in your concert ensemble, even if you don't even know why this video exists, that's good.
You're
And if
you're
you're
in the right place.
correct, and if you are a 2024 participant in a group dynamic servant leadership workshop, then you know you're in the right place to talk about this topic. So let's jump right in because people know us and we don't need to do anything more introductory. You think that before we even talk about using student leaders in a concert band setting, you have to be clear on the culture and trust has to be there. What steps or activities make it possible for trust and culture to be there?
I mean, it's the foundation of the entire process, and like you continue to say, you got to build relationships and encourage others before you can ask for more. And you using your student leaders in a concert ensemble is exactly that. It's asking for more from them,
Mhm.
right? And actually, just from a purely organizational aspect of it, you are sending a group of students out of your site during instructional time during the school day. And so, ergo, a fair amount of trust has to be had that they are going to stay on task and stay safe, and also get the work done that you expect them to get done. So, I mean, bottom line, it just has to be their culture and trust before any of this can happen.
If you feel like you don't have that in your program yet, are there some ways to set that up? An activity or something that you have done the previous school year or the previous month in order to make that happen?
Right. Well, you could just model to them the expectation of what you want to happen during the sectionals first. Like, and I often do that even with my bands here at Purdue. Before they go into sectional time, I will take them through an actual sectional so that they are very clear on the process and expectations. And then, the building the trust into getting building relationships with your ensemble. I mean, there's so many different activities and things you can do that. But bottom line, what I found to be the most effective and the easiest way is to set up some one-on-one just conversations with the students so that you can just get to know them outside of the world of band and the world of rehearsing. If they know you to be a good human and that you have an interest in their well-being, uh, the likelihood that they're going to do what you ask them to do is a lot higher.
And if the right stuff has happened, like again, if people have been through the workshop, they've just gotten done with a marching band season where a lot of this stuff happened peer to peer. The director can be like literally physically distant from students um, during that first couple months of the year, except for maybe with the student leaders. But student leaders in concert band might be different humans than the ones
Hmm.
student leaders in marching band. Um, in a perfect world, they've already experienced some sectionals in marching band, and now they're just transferring that to concert band. But it happens a little bit differently. Can you talk a little bit logistically how it can happen in a band rehearsal? Like how do you get student leaders to do stuff?
Right. So, just from a purely logistical standpoint, I'll talk about my process quickly. And the first thing that happens is that we're always starting together. We're not starting the day split off into various locations, right? Always starting together, a very quick warm up, any announcements you might have, and then say, these are your expectations for the day. This is where you're going. And then as far as how you split them up into groups and how many groups are going out at any given time, it's really determined by the space that you have. We've had to get pretty creative in a couple of of places that I've been, but practice rooms, offices, percussion rooms, storage areas on the stage, green room, choir room if it's free, hallway, the gymnasium outside. You just got to get creative with your space if you want to send everybody out all at once. Um, you might only have space for 1 to 4 sectional groups per day, but it's still a great use of time. You could work with brass and percussion in the band room and send your woodwinds into sectional time, and then the next day you flip, and it's still, like I said, a great use of time.
Yeah.
Um,
I know that I did skip to toward the end of your outline when you start talking about the nuts and bolts, but I wanted to let people watching kind of maybe picture the sort of thing that we were talking about first. So we'll go back to that. But now sell us on it. Like, what are some benefits that you find when you continue this student-led sectional stuff into concert band?
the biggest benefit that I found is that overall it increases the student ownership of the material, and it's just a big morale boost for them. Because another benefit is that it did make some rep that would otherwise be inaccessible, accessible, right? You when you're choosing music for your ensembles, we've all found those pieces that we would just love to play and that the kids would love, but it's just a little bit beyond their grasp for what they could accomplish in just a normal full band rehearsal cycle. Because, like you wisely said to me once, kids don't practice. And so it's essentially scripting the critical moves and forcing them to practice during the school day. It gives your high performing students more responsibility. So if the music that you're selecting is well below your high performing students, giving them something extra to do keeps them engaged, and it helps bring the lower, let's call it the lower 80% of the band up to performance level a lot quicker, so that for the last 2.5 weeks in a concert cycle, you're working solely on large ensemble skills that we all love to work on, balancing, blending, phrasing, the critical listening, like what I consider to be the fun stuff of rehearsal instead of the nuts and bolts.
Yeah.
And then lastly, the individual playing time, mouthpiece on the face or sticks in hands per rehearsal increases enormously when using the small sectional kind of this structure that I use. They're talking a lot less and they're playing a lot more, which is always going to be a good thing.
Yeah, what I think, I remember when I did it, it just really increased the ownership. There was a there was one little side benefit, um, that you're some ways you're more magnanimous than I am, or less selfish. I don't know. Anyway, I appreciated this. I remember a student coming back to me once and saying, I said, how did it go with those third clarinet players getting, get that run figured out? And Marissa said, it went really well and they got so much better. And I'm like, okay, but you seem mad. And she said, they never said thank you. They didn't say thank you to me about how helpful it was. And I did all this work. I tried not to laugh, but I laughed. I just said, welcome to my world. like this is the world of when you teach people to do stuff, because they go from feeling like they're not enough, to like feeling like they can do it finally. And so it's hard to be corrected. And it's just also a part of the process in band in any class. Like, you don't have students walking out of class saying thank you teacher, thank you teacher. Like, that'd be great, but no, we have to wait till like graduation parties and then we get it there. But that is another side benefit, is they kind of understand a little bit better what it's like to be in charge of the band to a certain extent. um so talk about the work that you have to do in advance in order to set them up for success, in terms of some of the stuff that Dr. Lucas Peterson is so good at, score study, repertoire selection.
So yeah, like you said, there is quite a bit of work that has to be done beforehand. First and foremost, going back to the very first thing, building the relationships with the students, because if not, none of this can happen. And then the second thing is the repertoire selection slash cycle planning slash score study all needs to happen well before the first week of the rehearsal cycle. Um, and that's because, throughout your selection and planning and score study, you're going to find the excerpts and you're going to choose the excerpts that they're going to be working on in their small sectionals, right? And so throughout your study, you're going through the score and you're isolating the technical areas of the piece that they're the areas, the excerpts that when you're choosing the repertoire, the spots that make you think, oh, we could do this if only they would practice this part.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like, well, now you're going to give them what they need, and that's time to practice that part during band. Yeah, meet the needs. Um, and so those are, again, and you could see the other and forthcoming videos on repertoire selection and stuff like that. But that's a very, very important part of all of this. And again, needs to happen well before the first week of the cycle. Um, Selecting your section leaders is another very important thing that needs to happen early on because you need a little bit of time to introduce to them exactly how you want them to run those sectionals, right? And you have to decide how you're going to choose those section leaders. Are you going to audition them? Are they going to fill out an application? Is there an interview? Is there a blood test? Is it just by appointment? And that really depends on your own current culture and philosophy of how you select leaders. At Winterset High School, for instance, for concert band, all I did was I appointed them. I just asked them if they would be interested in serving as a section leader, and they said yes. And because there was a culture there, and because I had the relationship with the students, nobody ever questioned or came up to me and said, "Well, why is this person a section leader and I'm not?" Because it was very clear that this is the person that should be doing this thing.
yeah, yeah. But let's remember, everybody, Dr. Lucas Peterson, and a little bias on my part, but also just some experience. Like you were my daughter's band director, and so I just know this from. I know this on several levels. Students knew that you were on their side. You're fairly demanding. You program some pretty tough stuff. Um, and then yeah, of course you gave them the tools, which is why you're the expert that is helping with this follow-up program. But part of the reason that you could just appoint students and nobody questioned it is because people like totally trusted your judgment. But Mara tried out for drum major, she didn't get it. Morgan got it. Her reaction was, that tracks, that makes total sense. Because like your, first of all, we both know Morgan, but also like just your judgment was trusted. So that's where you go back to sort of that background. I didn't have as much faith in that level of trust. I probably should have, but I didn't. So something that I did was I asked section members to write down on a piece of paper the names of one, two, or three people that they're willing to take orders from. I'm like, hey, I'm
Yeah.
going to pick some section leaders, but I want to know who you're willing to take orders from. So not like who do you think is the best player, who do you think is the best person, or even who do you think is the best leader? Because really, at this point in time, almost all that concert band section leader does is run sectionals. So I just want, so it could end up being the second or third best player. It was usually the best player, but just created space for the others. So that was that
Yeah,
was my
that's
that was my way of doing it.
that's a fantastic idea, actually. Yeah.
There you go. All right. Sorry, did I interrupt you in the middle of answering the question? Or is it?
So yeah, so selecting the section leaders and then finally teaching them how you want them to teach, right? And that's, we're all formerly trained musicians and we know how to practice, and you're essentially teaching them teaching your student leaders how to guide that in their own individual practice during that sectional time, right? And this can happen either in your one-on-one lessons with the student leader or in small groups or just as a full leadership team, right? And first, you're modeling to them how you want them to lead a sectional. So you yourself are taking them through the process, and then you have them either step in front of the group or the small group, or actually have them take you yourself through a what's the word I'm looking for?
Role
A
play.
role play. Yeah, role play. Thank you. How to lead through the sectional, and then the most important thing is that you're giving them feedback on their instruction. Um, don't just watch them do it and say, "Yep, you're good to go." Like actually give them some guided feedback on things to improve or things to consider the next time, and they'll continue to improve as they do it. And then as best you can, observe their first time with their actual people, whether it's you have them just record it and play it back to you at a later time, or if you're able to walk around and observe a little bit of some of the sectionals going on. I mean, that would be best case scenario. But ultimately, they do need feedback on their first couple sessions to know that they're doing it correctly and how you want them to. And just for your own peace of mind, you just need to know that they're getting the work done like you want them to.
Yeah. You can probably read the body language of their section members as they come back into rehearsal also.
Right. Yeah.
Like that was okay or that wasn't okay. Yeah. Um, so beyond being teachers, helping with teaching, what are other staff positions that students could take on to free you up to do higher end stuff?
Sure. So you're talking about some non-instructional staff members, and these leaders help you create more time in your schedule for the things that only you can do. And we hear that often is do only what you can do. And that primarily is score study, rehearsal preparation, all of the program administration that you have to do for all of your various ensembles, et cetera, grading, all of the things only you can do. And these non-instructional staff members, yeah, over the span of a school year, if they're doing the job that you're also doing, but you don't have to, you have so much more time during your day. And the first one that I found takes up a lot of time is that of a librarian, right? Appointing a non-instructional student leader to be the librarian for not just your concert ensembles, but for all of your bands, right? And there should be a person who's incredibly organized and should love to sort and organize and catalog. And chances are you have a couple of
Yeah,
those in your band right
they're
now.
they're out
Um,
there. They definitely are.
yeah, they're there. And then secondly, a setup crew. And these are what I fondly refer to as the band room normies, that just have extra time, right? The people that are in the room, either before school or throughout the day or after school or whatever, that, are just hanging out and would love to lend a hand if they can. And I had them actually set up the ensembles for me. They would go around and fix stands periodically, just generally maintain the orderliness of the room. Thirdly, a percussion tech or a couple of them, people to maintain the inventory and maintenance and just be the general custodian over all things in the percussion area, which can be a great source of woe for many band directors. But if you have a couple percussion students that you can trust with that, it really does free up a lot of your time and your brain power.
And I think you can identify them sometimes by saying, "Hey, who back here wishes this was more organized?" Um, and then there's going to be one or two kids who are like, "Yeah, me." And you can say,
Right.
"You want to be in charge and like have at it," and they'll be like, "Oh, seriously, can I?" I mean, I think that's
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to have students saying, can't believe you're making me do extra work. I think you're gonna find them.
Right, exactly. And then, as an incentive, you shouldn't have to bribe any of these people, but I have been known to resort to offering food or a pizza party or something like that. But essentially, just try to count their time for volunteer hours because the people that want to do a lot of this work, chances are they're working towards like a silver cord or whatever volunteer program you might have with your school, and you can count up those hours for them throughout the year. That stuff, the service aspect of serving your band program really looks great on your scholarship applications. For your letters of recommendation that you're writing for them, you have some quantifiable data of this person put in this many hours and it saved me this much time throughout the school year that I was able to do this. They're servant leader, et cetera, et cetera. Or, in a pinch, consider paying them. I I did actually pay somebody, and this was a former student, a recently graduated student, but the library was a complete disaster area, and I said, would I rather spend 5 hours in there myself, or would I rather give somebody $100 to do it for me? And for me, that was I just did not
And did that come
want
out
to
of your
do it.
pocket? That came out of your own pocket, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that was my own. I was not utilizing school resources
Right.
to
You were scrounging around in the read money. This isn't
Yeah.
92. Okay.
No, that was out of my own paycheck. So yeah, there's just and there's probably more things and more some more non-instructional staff positions you could come up with, but essentially just thinking of ways to get you more time during the day to do the things only you can do.
Yeah. And I don't know if we're going to get to this, but I kind of want to tell my own anecdote. I took that so far. I had students figuring out what music didn't have the necessary legal judges copies and accompaniment copies, and then fill out the order forms for the music store, and then also fill out the purchase order for the school in order to buy those parts, which was fine. But I did get into trouble with my principal, who called me in to say, Mr. Feirer, students may not sign purchase orders. Once
Yeah.
he was like, Mr. Feirer, you want to sign this before I take it to the office? And I'm like, let's do a little experiment. You sign it. And he's like, all right. And he took it to the office. And then we found out that wasn't okay.
Yeah, failed experiment, but probably for the best.
Yeah. But we were just really pushing the boundaries on how much could I turn over to students. So
Right.
all right. Something we promised earlier was to provide a little bit more guidance in how to do a small sectional. So anything we haven't talked about yet there, we got like 5, 6 minutes left. Please use that time to share some guidance on that.
Yeah, so like I said briefly, always starting together, very quick warm up, announcements, take care of business, and then let them go, right? Splitting them up as their space allows, getting creative if you have to, and then you or another staff member, if you're fortunate enough to have one or two of them, rotate between the sections to do some monitoring of the teaching, right? And always starting with the weakest first, the weakest section, or maybe even it's a strong section, but the leader, the person leading the sectional might be the weakest of your group. So you're starting with the weakest section first, and they should get more of your time and attention, and then try to visit as many sections as you can throughout the day. That can be difficult if, say, you do only have room to send out one or two sections per day, then and you're the only person there, who's going to watch the remainder of your band for the 10 minutes that you're not in the room, right? Um, depending on the culture and the trust that you have, you could say, you all have excerpts to practice in your small sectionals. Take 10 minutes and do some individual time. I'm going to go visit these two sectionals. Um, and then pop in as you're moving from one to the other just to make sure everyone's for the most part on task and practicing. Ideally, you could have a instructional coach or somebody stop by maybe for just 5 or 10 minutes. A lot of schools have those people and those resources. If you ask for it, they'll stop by just to monitor while you're doing a couple other things. It happened all the time at both of the schools that I taught at. Um, and then this one I think is very important, and that's giving everybody a grade after the first week of the concert cycle, right? And this is what's that?
I said
E-
each sounds scary.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, the students will freak out, and the parents will freak out because this is something they can see, right? And it's not going to be great, right? And if you're using whatever rubric you're using, chances are after 1 week of rehearsal, they're probably getting performing out of a level 5, maybe at a level 2, 3-ish for the most of them, right? Some
Uh-huh.
level 1s, and some people can play it, right away. But they need to know where they are immediately, and it's important that you let them know and their parents know that that grade's not permanent. It will continue to improve as they continue to improve on the repertoire.
So you're not giving a grade 1 week and a grade the next week and a grade the next week, and then they all get
No.
average later. It's like that was your first week grade. That's gone now. Now yours. You're okay. I get it now. I'm a little less ish on my part.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly it. And then for me, the parent-teacher conferences happened usually around week 2 or 3 of the concert cycle. And I had so many come in that first year I did this and say, why is my son, getting a D in band? Like it's band. And this student was I think a district level, a SCIBA district level, musician. So a fairly accomplished musician getting a D in band. And the student was there. I just turned to them. I said, out of the 3 pieces we're performing, out of, scale of 1 to 5, how would you say you're performing the excerpts that we're working on? And they say, oh, maybe like a 2, 2 right now. And then I show them the rubric and it's like, oh, that's a D right now.
Great.
But you'll continue to practice and get better. And by the time, the concert rolls around, you'll be at a 4.5 or, maybe even a 5.
Yeah.
Um, and that's for me, they got 2 grades per piece. One was for the rehearsal and one for performance, right? And so you're always grading their effort and achievement, not grading just showing up to the concert. And I just use the concert tape as a as the record of their performance, and they're observing their individual their small sectionals for the rehearsal grade. And just by the end of the concert cycle, you know who can play and who can't, right? And always give them the option. If you don't like your grade, you can come in and prove to me that I was wrong with my assessment, and we can get that changed right now.
This
Um,
really does require a lot of trust in you and the director. I think. I think that if you as a director, anybody watching this or listening to this is like, oh, that sounds daring. I'm just going to go ahead and be daring with that. Remember, that's something we said at the very beginning and several times throughout. And again, right now, is the relationships and the trust have to be there before going too far, I think, with any of these things. Cool. We need to wrap up. Is there anything you want to say in conclusion?
yeah, and that is sending them off into a small sectional. What if they're not playing the entire time? Good, right? As long as they're making progress and they're doing what they're supposed to. If they're not playing the entire time, if they have 40-minute sectional and they're playing for 25 of that, the other 15 is building relationships, great. Built-in section bonding time, right?
Yeah. And in
Um,
terms of like learning life lessons through hard work and discipline and band, that's literally what their work life is going to be like in an office someday.
Right. And then also, we have such a wide, a varied level of ability in our ensembles that, there are some people who just purely cannot play this repertoire at a level 4 or level 5, right? And making sure that you're making accommodations for those people who need it, or giving them extra one-on-one individual assistance as the expert in the room, right? It's up to you to do that. And
Yeah.
then a good kind of going back to what you said before we decided to wrap up, is don't jump in and try everything we've talked about immediately. Try one small aspect of it with one section that you trust,
Yeah.
right? And see how it goes, right?
Yeah.
You know, and start to consider applying more aspects slowly and over time.
Yeah.
Right. And for me, at least, the results were extraordinary. More powerful musical moments, on more challenging repertoire, more fulfillment on an individual, musicianship standpoint, and for them to do a hard thing very well.
Yeah.
For them, it just felt really good.
Yep, I also had really good results from putting students in charge of helping their peers make the music sound good in the concert band season. If you are watching this because you received a link from Dr. Petersen, then you also got an attachment that has the handout and the notes associated with all of this, including links to other things. So if you happen to chance upon this, but you're not that person, just go ahead and email me at alan@groupdynamic.net or Lucas at
LH Peters at purdue.edu.
LH Peters. So that's good. And people don't have to screw up the ON versus EN at the end. So
That's it.
thank you for joining us for the third follow-up session from, right? This is the third?
Third, yes.
Yeah, the third follow-up session from the 2024 Group Dynamic Leadership Workshops. What is the topic for session 4?
The topic for session 4, incredibly topical to everybody right now, is score study.
Okay, cool. All right. Look forward to score study here in a week or two. Thank you very much for joining us. Let us know what questions you got. We'll see you.
Thank you.